Today we're going to be meeting the team, Ephraim and Brienna, and we're going to be talking about how we found Melrose, our Goldilocks house. And we're also going to be talking about closing, why it took nearly 2 months to close when it should have only taken 30 days. All of that is coming up right now on Logan Flips Houses, so stick around.
Hold on.
Yes?
Look, I keep on looking at the screen, but I need to be looking at the camera, don't I? It's hard.
I know. Boop! Hey guys, and welcome to episode 2 of Logan Flips Houses. I'm sitting here with Brienna, a core member of my team. She is the real estate agent who helps get all the houses bought and sold. She is a realtor for Keller Williams Tuscaloosa. Thank you so much for being with me today and taking the time to speak with everybody and help everyone find out who you are. So I called you a realtor, and what is the difference between a real estate agent and a realtor?
So that's a good question. A lot of people don't understand the difference. Difference in being a real estate agent and a realtor, both actually have to have a real estate license. And being a realtor means that you're part of the National Association of Realtors. We have a few more guidelines that we have to adhere to. A little more responsibility as far as what is expected of us. We have a code of ethics that we have to take every year. Real estate agents and realtors both have to have continuing educations to keep their license, a member of the National Association of Realtors, and we have just a few more guidelines that we have to adhere to.
So how long have you been in real estate?
So I've had my license since 2009.
So what made you get into real estate?
So whenever I first moved to Tuscaloosa, I was working at IHOP and really enjoyed working there. I enjoyed working with different people. I liked my customers, interacting with different people every day. And so I wanted to do something that was just still working with people, just on a more professional level. Mm-hmm. And so I thought real estate was a good option because I did not have to spend years in college, and it was, just something I could still work with people and help people. So my favorite part about the buying experience is when the new buyer finally picks out the home that they like, and they go in and start talking about what they're going to do with the house, what bedroom they're going to pick. It's especially heartwarming when little kids are with us and they pick their bedroom and say what all they're going to pick in their bedroom. And, any buying experience, they're buying for different reasons. Some are buying because they need to downsize. Some are buying it's their first home. So every experience is different, and I tend to pick out something special about every transaction. So.
You get to work, set your own schedule, and you get to be your own boss for the most part. What does your typical day look like as a real estate agent?
So a typical day could be going to the office, returning calls, following up with clients, even potential clients, scheduling appointments and viewing homes, or scheduling or having buyer consultations at the office, showing homes, or meeting with clients to put their home on the market. And also in between those times, we have continuing education classes to do, which I tend to go overboard with mine sometimes. So that's also
always a good thing, though.
Part of my schedule is
that's a
classes.
Good thing. I would much rather my agent be very highly educated.
And I am.
Yes, you are.
I won the Arthur B. Pope Award.
No, what is that?
It's an education award who has awarded to the realtor that has the most classes.
Tell everyone our origin story.
All right. So I was with Angela at one of the properties that our company managed, and she was supposed to meet with you that day and couldn't, so I filled in for her and showed you some condos that you were considering buying. We looked at condos one day when you stopped by, stepping in for a friend, for another agent.
That is, I think it is literally the definition of serendipity. So what are your hobbies and interests?
So, of course, I love spending time with my family, and from time to time play my flute and kind of looking at houses. I don't have many hobbies. I need to get a hobby.
I need a hobby too.
Let's start a hobby.
Let's just start Bob Ross painting.
Okay.
I could do that.
Okay.
We can do that. We can do it.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
So I'm sitting here with Ephraim. He is the other half of my core team. He is the construction manager for Logan Flips Houses. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and talk and introduce yourself to everyone. Tell me what you do in your job as the construction manager.
I'm the Chip Gaines of your flip.
Okay. So as the construction manager, what do you do for Logan Flips Houses?
I manage construction.
Yes, you do. Boop. Yes, you do.
I schedule contractors. I stay there while they're doing the work. Try to work around them and get some things done that I needed to do. I was in charge of demo, which was fun.
That was very fun, actually.
I think most important part is going to be putting everything back together, because that's the fun part.
Is it though? The demo was pretty damn fun. Like, we had a sledgehammer, and we had crowbars, and...
Now is when it actually starts looking like a house again.
Yes. I mean, it really does. So not only do you do just the contractors and that, I mean, you do the majority of the labor at Melrose. You are the one that's taking down walls and closing up doorways and making new doorways and painting and
Lots of painting.
Lots of painting. And putting down flooring and putting up the closets, you know, so you have a huge role. Like, without you, there wouldn't be a Logan Flips Houses, so thank you. I mean, same with Bree, you know, like, if it wasn't for the both of you, like, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I appreciate it.
I really don't think you would have gotten like a real estate agent. Like, if we had to go like out and just like find one, you wouldn't have probably had one that like dedicated so much time and stuff to finding this. Like, they would have just given up. So
yeah,
I'm really thankful for her too.
Oh yeah. What sort of construction work have you done in the past?
I've been around construction work most of my life. My dad, when I was a kid, decided to do his own little flip. He bought a house. I think it was built in the 1920s. They actually lifted it and moved it 5 miles.
Jesus.
I believe, and it was about the same, probably about the same size as Melrose. And he built an addition on the back, and I remember helping him do that, and that was in the early 2000s. His dad was a carpenter who actually worked on, I found this out the other day, worked on the staircase in the Alabama State Capitol building.
Oh, that's
and helped
cool.
like restore it back in the 70s, I think.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
And, his dad was a carpenter, I believe. His grandpa was a carpenter. That was a big thing on the dad's side of my family, was building houses, and they built most of the houses in the area in Lamar County, where my grandma and grandpa grew up. Like, my dad will go by and it's like, yep, they built that one. On a couple of historic properties here in Tuscaloosa. It wasn't as extensive as this. It was mainly like me helping out, but I derailed their plans a couple times. Found like historic like plaster in one of the bathrooms that looked like subway tile, and they thought it was just like 1970s paneling. I was proud of that one. I actually can't take credit for that. What is that lady's name on HGTV? Rehab Addict? I actually had just watched one of her episodes, and she was talking about that subway tile and it was either in their kitchen of a house or in the bathroom. And it was just like a few days later, I was at that house and I saw it, and I was like, I know exactly what that is. So a lot of stuff comes from HGTV2. Like, that's really what got me into like home renovations and home improvement, things like that. HGTV and DIY Network, and then Joanna Gaines just was the cherry on top.
Yes. What is your typical day working at Melrose?
Lots of Home Depot runs, mainly because I forget things, or like we get back there and we get to like working on something and then realize we like don't have a tool, so you have to go all the way back to Home Depot. Every day is different up until now. Like now is when it's really like getting into like crunch time to get everything finished. Before it was just like ripping out a wall and having no idea what we're gonna find behind it.
With COVID, you know, how does that affect your day-to-day work on Melrose? I mean, you've had to deal with COVID the entire time, but how do you think you would have done something, you know, like if you compare like what you would have normally done like to what you have to do now, what, you know, how has it been different?
I think I would have been a little bit more involved with the contractors, just like getting close to them, kind of seeing what they're doing, getting them to explain it so I can have like a better understanding of how some of the things work that I don't understand, like electrical. But yeah, it's like while I'm there, I still try to kind of keep my distance. I know they say 6 feet, but I would say like 12 feet. And then Home Depot runs are interesting because like getting, I don't know, like wearing the mask in there is like kind of makes me want to find things on my own instead of like bothering an associate, because I know like they're definitely like stressed even more now. And
The curbside has been amazing for all of our Home Depot runs.
not only do I have to wear a mask like on site when we're dealing with things putrid and dangerous, have to wear masks too going into like Home Depot
or being around the contractors and whatnot. So what are your hobbies and interests?
Obsessed with historic houses pre-1940.
Why pre-1940?
Well, people have a hard time distinguishing between old and historic. Like 1950s, 1960s, 1970s like Melrose. That's just old.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the difference between like an old piece of furniture and an antique. Like antiques are going to be like higher quality. They were nicer, like when they were made. And historic homes are just, I don't know, they're like living witnesses of terrible times, good times, controversial times, especially here in Tuscaloosa. I don't know, I'm obsessed with history too. And so I think being able to like see like how people lived, it's always been kind of intriguing to me.
So once we found that perfect Goldilocks house, it was time to put in an offer and get us all the way to closing and get us to where we had keys in our hand. And that was a journey in and of itself.
You know, I like to prep all my clients with my clients that are buying that the lending part is the most annoying part. A lot of times it's not that frustrating, but I do like to, you know, tell them just be prepared. They're going to ask you, you know, everything that you've ever spent on your bank account. They're going to ask you, why did you have this for breakfast? They're going to ask you what's in your mama's account. I mean, it's just very tedious. They go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and it's pretty annoying. With
This house, we had some issues getting the financing. So originally in our offer and then contract, we said 30 days to close, which I think is quite standard, and it's usually quite doable. But of course, this is the beginning of COVID, so you know we were expecting a couple of bumps. The first bank that we went with was Boop. And we were I think I was pre-approved at that point, right?
Yes.
Before we made the offer. So we had the pre-approval letter. We were good to go. It was ready. They started processing. I was getting a second loan product from them to do the work on the house. And I guess it was maybe 2 weeks before closing. It was a little closer to closing than we were maybe it was a week into it. It was either a week or 2 weeks into the actual closing process, into that closing window. And she called you. She didn't call me, so.
Yes, and she called me to tell me that unfortunately they could not do the loan because the amount of the loan was not an amount that they couldn't go as low as what the contract price was. And
of course, this was 2 weeks into it, so it's not like they didn't know the contract amount before we got there.
Right. She knew the contract amount. I think it was more so she just didn't realize that she was not going to be able to go that low because an investor, they didn't have an investor that was going to pick up the loan because of the price of the loan. So that was a little frustrating, and then we changed lenders.
And we started calling, or I started calling different banks. Well, you started calling your different contacts, different loan contacts too. I called Boop, which is someone that I had worked with before, and I had some issues with, but I was going to give them another chance just because it was a loan. It was something that, they could do because they did kind of specialized financing. And the loan officer told me point blank, I believe in an email, that homes will not be bought or sold because of COVID. And so there is no reason for me to give you this loan. Surprise.
Yeah.
Surprise.
He was wrong because we have a busy market.
We have a very busy. And then so we finally settled on a credit union here in town. That was fun.
Yeah, they were also backed up with files. We didn't really get it done in a timely manner that would have, probably during a different time frame.
I mean, some of it was time, but there was a lot of really terrible, loan processing and miscommunications,
asking for documents over and over again, and
I know I called you frustrated and cursing and just livid, just so that I wouldn't call them cursing and livid, and just kind of gave you hell instead of trying to give them hell, because I knew that I was about to come unglued on them.
Well, we did have to get back on the same page a few times with the lender. We did. That was definitely a challenge that we went through.
That was. Because it was. At one point they told me, you have so many bank accounts, it's just hard for me to process this. It's just and then getting out my little spreadsheet and
that was
showing
very
them
helpful for them, wasn't it?
Well, it got it done. It was just, it was a long road.
It was.
And I remember the first, because we had a question for the loan officer, because we were kind of in the middle of the contract. We said, we have a closing date. Because it was 2 weeks into it, because they were like, we have a closing date in 15 days.
Yeah.
And they were like, and she was like, we cannot do 15 days.
Right.
But we can close in 30 days. Quote, unquote. How many days was it, Bree?
I don't remember. Remind me.
It was May 15th.
Yeah.
Is when we started.
Once we submitted the contract to that lender?
Yes.
Okay.
But we closed July 7th. Almost 60 days later.
Yeah.
We can close in 30 days.
We did get held up too with USDA, not from your loan, but the seller's loan was with USDA.
Right.
And USDA through COVID was working from home, and they wouldn't send the payoff to the
right. But to be
right
fair,
person, and
should have been requested at the beginning of the loan process.
Yeah. So that was more so of the title company.
They didn't even engage the appraiser until the week that we were supposed to be closing. And then there was one time where the Friday before the Monday of a close, of one of the closing dates, they were like, we need your bank statements. Like, really? We've gone through this. And I think I had to send them a copy of my bank statements at least. I mean, there are probably at least 50 emails just about bank statements where I'm saying, this is how much it is. This is how much you need. Like, what is your problem? Like, what is the issue here? So we're going to be talking about what it was like finding Melrose. Like I talked about in the last episode, it's a Goldilocks house of finding the perfect price, the perfect amount of work for your budget, and that perfect resale value. And that was a lot of work. With COVID, do you think that investing in real estate is a bad thing?
No, you are not crazy, because a few different reasons why it's a good time. Your interest rate being so low, the inventory is so limited on the market now, you are definitely going to be able to sell it when you get ready to put it back on the market. And I mean, those two main reasons right now are really the best reasons why it is a good time. There may be some challenges involved, but for the most part, I mean, it's a great time. Okay. You're not crazy for investing during COVID.
So when we were searching for the property, I guess we probably all had our particular criteria that we were looking for in terms of, you know, what the property needs to be for us to really be able to consider it for the purchase. I know for me, it was, like I said, the Goldilocks, where it has to be a good price, something that I could afford to put a down payment on, something that I could afford to get a loan on, and something that I could afford to pay for the work out of pocket. Ephraim, what was yours? What were your criteria for whenever we looked at a house?
I think the first thing I wanted to look at, and I would always recommend anybody else to look at, and try to see if there's any like termite damage or any kind of damage to the foundation. Because like once you start working on the foundation, that's when that like just throws your budget out the window, like it's gone. I guess age of the house is a big thing too, because like the older the house, the bigger the budget. As much as I wanted to buy the houses we looked at from the 20s and 30s, the one in Fayette, and the one in Northport, I figured that with this being like our very first flip, it probably wasn't a good idea.
Right.
Just because like that was long before building codes ever existed. And you also have to worry about, like if the house was built I think before 1975, you have to worry about like lead paint, asbestos, and all of that. It's mainly just trying to look at a house that's something that you can handle, that you know you can handle. And do a lot of research about like what to expect from houses from different decades. Like it's not something you think of, but you know, every decade from World War II and up, like building codes changed and building materials changed. So I think that's the biggest thing.
What about you, Bree?
So my criteria was just to make sure that we were getting a property that first was going to be a good price for you, and that we could also list it for a price that was going to net you what you wanted to net after we sold it. So during that time, of course, I had to ask y'all questions like, especially for you, Tyler, was how much do you think you would have to put into it? Like, what's the estimate? And then I could say, okay, well, with this listing price, with this contract price plus what you got to put into it versus what you can sell it for, helps me to determine if that is going to be a good fit for you for the flip.
And with every property that we went to, there was, the on-site yay or nay. If we walked into a place and it was just, a hoarder's house, a previous hoarder's house with blood on the floor, and locks on the bedroom doors.
We did look in a house like that.
Well, I know, that's why I'm saying it.
That one house too, that like I wouldn't even go inside. Like I wanted to really bad.
Because the one that was
abandoned.
condemned.
The one in Alberta?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
No.
because I thought you saw movement in there.
Oh yeah, and you ran back to the
Like a little boop.
Oh,
but
my goodness.
like that was, we would have the yay or nay on site, and if it was a yay, we would go through and kind of figure out what exactly we wanted to do in the renovation. Do we want to take out this wall? Do we want to add this wall? Do we have to replace the bathroom? Do we have to replace, flooring, or is it cosmetic or whatnot? And then once we had kind of what we were going to do, and I had my photographs of the initial walkthrough, I would go in and I would have my little spreadsheet that I would put everything into, and we would figure out an amount, put all of that in, and it would tell us whether this would be a viable flip from a financial standpoint. Because I'm a numbers person, I like to analyze and typically overanalyze. There was another house on, I believe this one is 24th Avenue East. It's the Northport one. That one was a pretty house.
30s?
Yes, that house. It was originally used as a one-room house. Three-room house. They added on 2 additional rooms, I think.
3
additional rooms and a roof.
No, 4. Sorry.
4 additional.
Which house is this?
The one in Northport. The one that we looked at in
Next to the-
Northport.
Dollar General? No.
Yeah,
Gas
Dollar
station?
General and the Piggly Wiggly.
That one had how many rooms?
It was
1, 2.
You had the 2 in the front, the 1, and then they added that dining room thing.
But there were
the
3 in the front.
Oh yeah, I'm getting there. The 2 and then the 1 because it was originally L-shaped.
Oh yeah, because you had to walk through a room to get to the other room.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they had the dining room, then they enclosed the porch, then they had that bedroom, and then they had that other room in the front.
Yeah, that would have been a lot of reconstructing on that one.
Well, and it was so old to begin with, but that would have probably been a good flip house. But it was bought, and it actually looks really good now. We passed by there the other day, and actually, that was one of the places we didn't put an offer in on that one, did we?
We did.
Oh,
They
we
didn't
did?
accept our offer.
Did they? I thought they just kind of left us hanging on that, didn't they? We put in the offer, and they just never really responded to us.
Yeah. She.
Which is unfortunate because they wanted a lot of money for that house.
Yeah. I can't remember what it actually sold for, but it sold for more than what our offer was for, but
not that much more.
Can't remember.
wasn't.
I'll have to check.
And then so we put an offer in at 45th Place East. That was the one with the over near Domino's over here, USPS. I can't remember the name of the neighborhood, but it's the one that
Oh yes.
that they had.
Sorry.
So that was going to be a good flip because it was going to be mostly cosmetic, except for some subflooring issues that we saw and some backyard.
Have you seen that one?
Yes.
The pictures?
It pissed me off because I'm like, that does not. That's terrible. They could have done so much more with that house.
The presentation of that house after the flip was horrible. Like
They didn't have the countertop on it.
maybe.
No, they had a counter. Remember, they had the kitchen the exact same little It's literally 3 squares of countertop.
And the hardwood floors they covered with carpet.
With
like
carpet!
the new hardwood
floors.
All they would have to do was leave it just like it is. They put carpet over it. Like, why would they do that?
Because they're crazy.
I mean, it goes from the outside to the inside, and they put carpet over new hardwood floor. Crazy. Anyway,
why was
they
that
still
offer?
overpriced that one when they put it back on the market?
Yeah.
I don't think it may be under contract now,
I think it's pending now. Yeah, I think.
but they still overpriced it.
That one was, but that was declined because of price too, right? We were going in too low on it.
Right, and we got into multiple offers, and we were competing with a cash offer.
Well, competing with a cash offer, and that just always is much better for you than anything else. And then the last house was on 24th Avenue East, and that upset me so much that they didn't hit that one. That was the one we looked at the same day as Colonial Drive. It was in not Alberta, but it was in Tuscaloosa off Veterans Memorial.
wood
Yes.
flooring.
Yeah.
It's like a boomer guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it had like the blood stain on the roof and on the floor and the wall. And
Oh,
room.
that we thought was the blood stain.
And where I almost fell through the master bathroom floor. God, that was terrible. But that was going to be a fun flip. I would have loved that.
Yeah.
A lot.
You know, and they didn't even, like the ideas we had, they didn't do any of that. They just left it how it was, the floor plan the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And they just painted it. It looked like it. They kept the same countertops, same cabinets, everything was there. Yeah. We could have gotten away with a lot. So that's our story of finding Melrose. We went through a lot of offers, or went through a lot of showings, went through a lot of offers as well.
Yeah.
And
well, Logan, you say we went through a lot, but really, that's not really a lot compared to.
We looked at a lot.
We could end up, investors end up looking at.
Right.
Like, once we get into more, and the more you start, that list is going to get longer for each.
I guess it
between
felt.
Each flip, I think.
I guess it felt so like there were so many because it was over so long of a period. You know, we did it over what?
We
6
did.
months,
Yeah.
Almost, and I guess that makes it feel really long to me, just because it is just so many houses that we had to see over such a maybe not a lot. You know, but we would see them like we would have a weekend, like Saturday mornings we would get up and we'd go to these houses and. It felt like we would travel all the way to North Tuscaloosa County for that one. That was insane. But I remember whenever we went to Melrose and we were standing there, and which Bree wouldn't go in because the smell of the roach
Boop.
so terrible.
And actually, remember I did. I went through the kitchen right there to the end, and then I ran back out.
Like, I can't do it.
And I was like, take pictures and show me, please, what it looks
we
like.
had masks on. We had masks on at that point, and it was very foul smelling. I'll give you that. Like that was a very foul smelling house. But I remember us walking through it, and yeah, it smelled bad, and yeah, it looked bad. But I think both of us were like, you know, this could be the house. Like this could be it. You know, it was just a feeling, just kind of like with 45th Place East. Like we were like, we could do this. Like this is something that we can.
We've seen the potential.
Right.
Yeah,
and that was good. That was. I think you put in the offer that same. No. I said, give me the night to think about it because I didn't want to go in and sign my name to an offer, you know, without sleeping on it and making sure that this is something I absolutely want to do. That this is something that I can afford to do, which I guess is smart of me. I don't know. But the next day, I think you messaged me that morning. You're like, into the offer, and I was like, yeah, let's do the offer. Let's do it.
Yeah, and we got what? They come off $20,000 on the listing price.
$20,000. But we will talk more about that in the next episode of Logan Flips Houses, because that's going to be the episode all about Melrose, the design of what you came up with, what we came up with sitting on the couch, the old layout, what it looks like in the new layout, and you can kind of see what Ephraim does in the transformation on SketchUp, which is brilliant. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye. I'm sitting here with my...
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
Hey, good morning. This is Brienna, and I'm Logan's realtor. Get